It is 1 minute after 2. I'm gonna call the meeting of the Police Records Management System Oversight Committee of September 11th to order. Members physically present, but I will entertain a motion to permit those members not physically present due to personal illness or disability, employment purposes, or the business of the board, family or other emergency, or unexpected childcare obligations to participate by video or teleconference. We have a motion? Motion?
Second.
A second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Motion carries. And we should start with a roll call.
Berlin,
Here.
Bielowski, Conroy or Blumenthal, excuse me.
Either or.
Brands,
Here.
Bettman.
Here.
Martinovich,
Here.
McPherson,
Here.
Mendrick,
Here.
Ritz. He's present on video. Scalera,
I think he's trying to take off mute.
Here,
All right.
thank you.
sorry.
Here.
And Zerwin. Here. We have a form.
Good. Do we have any public comment?
We do. I had emailed it. It will be in the minutes.
Okay, and nobody asking to speak here, and we'll acknowledge that there was an email that was received. And that will be,
Put that in the minutes.
yeah, that'll be included in the minutes. I'm sorry, I skipped chairman's remarks, and I apologize. I did want to acknowledge today is the 23rd anniversary, 9/11. We all remember where we were that morning. And I just want to acknowledge the families of all the first responders who were involved, who gave their lives, and all of the victims that day. We pray for them and their families and wish them strength. Okay, on to the order of the approval of minutes. I'm sorry. Public comment.
Yeah. Oh,
Or-
or no,
chairman's
no,
remarks?
yeah, or either way.
I got it.
I thought you were gonna mention here. Oh, or we just talk about it. That's fine.
Okay, all right. All right, we'll go to approval of minutes.
So moved.
We have a motion?
Second.
We can do both.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. We'll move on to our action items. The first item, 24-2409, which is approval of fiscal year 2025 budget. We have a motion and a second.
Make the motion.
Motion?
Second.
Second. Any discussion?
Maybe just, again, just, we know we went over this at length last meeting, but Anthony, you want to just give a little summary of what's changed and what's incorporated? So we've got a little connection to last meeting.
Yeah, I want to defer to Don to do some highlights. I asked him prior to the meeting to make some highlights. There's a slight change from last month as well. He's going to highlight that and talk about it.
Excellent.
Are you able to present at all or?
How can he present? Oh, you want me to present? I'm sorry.
Do you have it?
Yeah.
I apologize.
No problem. Give us 1 second, sir. Somebody else waiting.
Mr. Chair, while he's pulling that up, can I ask a second question?
Yes, of course.
Just wanted to follow up again. I apologize. Maybe this was discussed last meeting too, and I just don't recall, but we are in the process of negotiating with Hexagon, right, to kind of revise the contract so that Addison leaving, that impact is not necessarily felt directly. And then if others are gonna leave, the same potential impact. Am I making that up, or are those negotiations ongoing? Are those confidential? You don't wanna talk about them now? Please start talking so I can stop.
That's good. We have, and we did, and, so that was approved last month. And we went over that in both meetings, and, oh, were you not here?
I don't.
Okay, so
I was here for both, so.
so, see if I remember off the top of my head. It was, there was some give and take. It was roughly about a 1.5% decrease in the contract. In the review of the contract, we did a line by line, audit of the contract. And there were some things that, see now, it's remembering now.
It's
Okay,
coming.
yeah, so that, yes, because we lost out on the ETSB side.
That's right.
Now it's familiar.
This is where I'm sitting.
Yeah. So we did a line by line audit, and a couple of things that were attributed to RMS we felt were really ETSB side. So they will be a credit to the RMS group from ETSB because you've been paying that in previous years to the tune of about 112,000. Doing this off the top of my head, so don't hold me to the exact numbers. So when we negotiated with Hexagon, we knew that there were some agencies, there were some other agencies other than Addison, so we took that into consideration when we were negotiating with them. So, and I think Anthony would agree, I think we're comfortable with where we're at in terms of impact to the remaining users, in terms of the remaining years of the contract. The one thing we were not able to finalize that will be coming, maybe this is where your confusion is the RSA, the resident system analyst, that we're still in discussion with Hexagon on. And there's a couple of options with that contract still. And we're trying to get a meeting with them to finalize what we want to do with the remaining parts of that contract. So that's still open. So there may be some reduction in that or some changes to that part of the contract that you'll see the impact to the users.
Yeah, may not be immediate, right?
Right.
So.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So for instance, if the county were to say they're pulling out and then $91,000 fee per year, would that mean that the other agencies are still on the hook for the 91,000? Or is it more of a per user fee where the contract just automatically gets reduced and the other members aren't necessarily responsible for picking up that cost?
The latter. There are some costs that are stationary, but it's a smaller amount of the
Okay.
contract.
So there's a fixed fee and then there's a user fee.
Correct. But the user fee is one of the things that we negotiated with Hexagon,
Okay.
which is a win-win for us. So
Okay.
before it was mainly a fixed fee, right? And that had to be, or a lot of it was a fixed fee that had to be shared amongst the agencies. Now we're able to remove some of those licenses from the contract, which reduces the cost.
Yeah, you have some flexibility in your licensing, so depending on where you get with the number of users, the agencies that have expressed they've been fluctuating are roughly around, what did we say, about 390 users. So that allows you at that point to look at some licensing, which is where the expenses become. So at this point, you really don't have any flexibility there, but so with Addison leaving, you won't see a difference. There won't be any impact. So we have some flexibility in the way we do things around. So
Is that gonna be documented as an amendment to the agreement or something that both agencies have to, both RMS and ETSB have to approve, or is that what we did last time? I remember taking action on that.
we did a change order to the contract, to the
Okay.
Hexagon contract. There was no decision, State's Attorney Berlin, on the actual IGA with the users, correct?
Yeah.
Making any changes to that?
No.
The recommendation last month was that nobody wanted to make any change to the IGA.
Okay, thank you very much.
Chair Berlin, may I ask a follow-up question?
Please.
The RSA that you're talking about, is that the Hexagon position that might be able to go away and current county staff would be able to assume those, maybe city staff too. I don't know. But county staff would be able to assume some of those responsibilities?
So that person doesn't really, do those responsibilities. That person's more of a, that's part of the discussion of what that role is, and it's kind of evolved over time, and so that's our discussion internally is Don has staff and is up to speed and that person has acted. When Don Carlson was here before Anthony McPherson was here, we talked and did not have an RSA. Because we were trying to keep costs down, and the old net RMS was just John Smith, and that didn't go very well. So we tried very carefully to see how much staff we were gonna have, and so the RMS staff was 3 or 4 people, and that got up to speed, and it was Dave Jordan, a few other people, and so now you have 4, right? 5, okay, sorry. 5, and so then when things were moving, we brought the RSA in because that person's kind of a liaison to manage the tickets between the CAD system and RMS and field-based reporting with Hexagon and make sure that they're moving along and kind of be our representative in the company. At the time we decided to do this, it was Intergraph and Hexagon bought Intergraph and it was helpful because it was transition and that was our spokesperson to move these tickets and kind of keep these things along. And we're much more stable internally between these 2 staffs. And so the question is, can we live without that person being kind of our quarterback at Hexagon? And that's what we're trying to decide is, can we just use the ticketing system and do we have enough stable staff where if we need help at the Hexagon level, can we just go to this ticketing system and eliminate that middleman? So that's what we're trying to decide. But they've got an upgrade coming, so we don't, on the RMS side, so we don't know that we want to pull that person out this year and do that kind of thing at this point. So that's what we're kind of
Let
analyzing.
me add to that response. That is a very comprehensive response. Executive Director Zerwins knows those details, but to answer your question specifically, yes, that's what we mentioned earlier, that potentially they could take on some of those responsibilities. She's absolutely right. We need to make sure that they can't and validate that they can take on some responsibilities, and some we may not even need that resource to handle because the way support has evolved. It's changed over the years, and what we needed 5 years or so ago, we don't quite need today. So we're trying to assess what we can do, what the team can take on, what we don't need from Hexagon.
So the committee members are being asked to approve the budget with that particular position in, and perhaps at some point in time over the course of the fiscal year, it may be able to go away.
That's absolutely right.
Thank you.
That's absolutely right. Good. I think we're ready now. Sorry.
Do apologize about this technical.
No, I think we're,
Is he ready?
I think we're getting it right.
Yeah, we're getting there. Don, if you want to go ahead and start.
Sure. I think we've actually covered a lot of it, the changes to the contract and things like that. We were able to essentially minimize the increase. It's fairly consistent with a standard year-over-year cost of living increase. We're at 3.97% now. The budget that we reviewed last month was slightly lower than this by about, I think it's about $9,500, just because there were some changes in staffing request or personnel requests that I wasn't aware of that were on the larger sort of IT budget. So it's still in line with a standard year-over-year increase, despite the fact that Addison's leaving. And that's largely due to the negotiations with Hexagon. Were there any specific questions that you had, member friends?
No, that was really, those are the key things.
Any other discussion, questions about the budget?
Yeah.
Right, I think, we have a motion second, we need a roll call.
Berlin,
Aye.
Gillespie, Blumenthal,
Aye.
Franz,
Yes.
Gutman,
Yes.
Martinovich,
Aye.
McPherson,
All right.
Moore.
Aye.
Ritz,
Aye.
Valera,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
Zerwin.
Okay. All right, on to 24-2410. which is authorization for periodic transfer of funds from the equipment replacement fund to the PRMS operations fund for payment of the previously approved Delta Works LLC contract PRMS P 1-24 to coincide with the completion of project phases as outlined in Table 1 professional fees of the contract. Need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Motion,
Second.
second, any discussions?
You got like a little summary on this one too. Was there a summary in the packet that I somehow missed?
Last month there
Last
was,
month it was.
but there was a whole summary and then outlining all the terms of this agreement. And it's in stages, if I'm not incorrect. So,
It's in
so
phase.
that's why we set it so that way you're only going to release that as you need it, because some phases you may not want to do. And you won't need to do depending.
Yeah, so remember, Fran, so the contract with Delta Works, we have a combined contract between us and ETSB. So they're gonna help out on the CAD side and they're gonna help us out on the RMS side. The RMS cost is $192,000. But again, as Lisa mentioned, the cost is by phase. So we're gonna work with them as much as we can to reduce the cost or just manage the cost. The cost is roughly the same as it was when we did the original RFP, around the same amount.
Yeah, it's a little bit more because of inflation, because you're doubling it. It's probably double between the two of them, yeah.
Okay, all right. But there's a 15% discount offers by Delta Works. We're using Mike Galvin, who was the lead last time, so he has the expertise, the experience of working with all of our agencies and going through the process with us. But we do think that we will be able to manage that money very tightly, considering that we've been through it before. We have a lot of the information already in place. We have a team of experts that we have a lot of confidence in. We have a team of chiefs who we work very closely with, who will be our SMEs on the business side to help us out with that part of it. So essentially, what we're asking here is for us to start transferring the money to get that process started, and when we receive our input.
I'm sorry, Kay. Continue. Do we have a timeline for when we're hoping to get the RFP out and?
Yeah, the goal is to start this month and worst case scenario, 12 months out. We think that we can probably do it in less than that, considering we have a lot of the information already there, a lot of the information and structure that they had to build last time, it's already there, right? So, but we think about 12 months out
For the whole process.
for the whole process.
And I guess just a final comment, if I could, it's just, I've already proven that my memory is not very good. If we could just make sure when packets go out that we try to do a little bit of an update so that we.
A summary. For
Yes, yes, I think that's just helpful to keep things in line in our heads.
Okay, we'll do that.
One of the things, if you remember, when Delta Works gets rolling, they did do a monthly report too. So you'll start getting a monthly report with them as well. So ETSB got one, but you'll get a monthly report. So we can send, you only meet quarterly here, lucky you. You've traded down. But we can send those out to this group on a monthly basis, like we do with some of the other reports that come out monthly here. So you'll start seeing that progress too.
Who's on the relation committee? It's gonna be some ETSB team members.
And they're already meeting. We're already doing preliminary with Mike Galvin and on the phasing, so.
Well, thanks for making time to speed up the schedule and try to address this issue. So appreciate the efforts.
As Director Zerba, no, I don't have a license to practice law, but I sometimes dabble as a city administrator, so bear with me.
Sometimes, just sometimes.
Be nice, Mark. Are we authorizing the concept of a periodic transfer of funds? Are we authorizing a specific amount? Are we authorizing a cap? Because I'm not under, I want to understand what we're voting on today.
It's really a concept because it's going to be, this is done in stages. So I mean, we do have an approved amount per stage. I believe that was in last month. So there's prices per stage, so it will be, but some stages we may not need, is my understanding.
So I think what he's asking is, will there be budget transfers coming here before something happens? So is that what you're saying? Like you'll see a budget transfer here?
For the payment
An
of the,
authorization?
yes, for the
Yeah.
payment of bills, will we see periodic, will we authorizing, is this from this today through some period through the end of the contract?
Could we include a not to exceed?
That's my question.
We could.
Amended.
So when something happens,
How,
so
I
when
mean,
we have
how,
to pay a bill, you're gonna see a budget transfer form come out of that first, and then a bills list payment.
And was
I'm trying
ETSB,
to think
is
of how you
ETSB
see
picking up
it for
50%
us.
of this cost?
I'm sorry?
Is ETSB picking up 50% of this cost?
You won't see it here because it's a separate, it's one contract, but it'll be paid.
Right.
We have our own phasing points.
Is
So
192 for the total?
No,
Or-
no.
That's
just for
just, the-
RMS.
that's just our.
Just RMS.
So there's 4 phases, so they would authorize payment of the phase, so I would imagine when's the next meeting? January? It would have said
it's in December.
December. So you would probably in the December agenda see like a budget transfer from the equipment replacement for the amount of that phase to prepare for the payment. And then you would authorize the budget transfer and then the payment.
So to that end, it's really conceptual. Because you'll see the budget transfer when they occur, but we're authorizing it to happen that way.
I guess that's what they're asking is what the process would be, because how do you want to do it? Do you want to see an actual budget transfer for the auditor?
Well, if I could speak, the way I look at it is, you're doing that right now. You're authorizing the funds to be transferred with this resolution.
Yeah, I'd be fine
Okay,
with
so I
that.
guess
As long
that's
as we
what they're
put a not to
asking, then,
exceed in there,
is
we're
what
not
the
exceeding
process
the
I
would be.
don't have a problem, I don't know what that would be though, the dollar.
Well, it would be as outlined in the fee statement. I mean, that's what we
Fee
included. That's why we included table 1, professional fees. So it would be. I don't have my copy.
If I may speak to the intent of this.
Yeah, please, Ken.
One of the way this contract is set up, the way the vote was, we don't, these are not to exceed amounts. And one of our big goals is to move faster. Really to trim these phases down as much as possible to minimize the cost. And I think the intent here would be to allow that to move as quickly as it needs to minimize the cost. If that clarifies. And we didn't want to do a one single large budget transfer now.
Yeah.
Because there would be no sense in pulling it out of the government fund now. But if we happen to finish phases faster than we can get that before the committee, we want to be able to continue moving.
What will we see next in this process? If this is approved today, what will the committee see next for approval?
I don't have an answer to that. I'm not even sure for that report.
I guess the question would be, what do you want to see?
I want to know what's the next benchmark for this committee, or by doing this, does it authorize the completion of as much of the
It
contract?
authorizes the completion up to that not to exceed amount of $192,000. But if you think that it's better for us to do it in phases, we can work
Yeah.
on, we can
That's why.
amend it to do that.
Show 'em. That's why I referenced it.
I actually do not care, but I think the motion needs to be more specific.
Yeah.
Can I still have for a second?
So I think it's specific toward
Well, maybe if he's gonna make copies of table 1, what's actually referenced in the resolution, which sets out each stage process and how it's specifically itemized.
Yeah, well, so 2 things. One is it's each of the phases are set. They gave us a customer loyalty discount and the phases are set. So even you're not going to be able to reduce any of those amounts, even if we move faster.
Oh, I was under the impression they were not to exceed, but those are fixed amounts.
That's today.
So you can, I think the simplest way to, so what you can do though is where you have latitude is in the phasing. So if you decided that you didn't want them to do contract negotiations, which is one of the phases, you could eliminate that phase. So you could authorize, and I can't remember off the top, I don't have it in front of me. So you could authorize the first two phases because those you know you're gonna do. Because it's up to the implementation and then come back to authorize whether or not you want them in contract negotiation. Because you're gonna, what they are. Because he took the phasing to make copies.
He's coming.
Okay, I think we're all on the same, I shouldn't say everybody. I'm comfortable with this. If we can just amend it to say not to exceed 192,269,36, and then we trust that we'll get monthly reports like we've done in the past, I think we should be fine.
I'm comfortable with that.
Same, I'm good.
192,000 is all the
Well,
phases, right?
Yeah, that's all.
Thank you.
But the
We're
amount,
Okay, fine. Thank you for the copy.
can I, just so you know the exact amount.
It's needs assessments, system requirements, proposal evaluation, and contract.
Right.
But then,
So we're just gonna amend the resolution.
Okay. All right, so we have an amendment then to the resolution for to include language not to exceed 192,000. Sorry, got my glasses.
269.36.
Thank you.
It's small.
That's-
So we
that's
need
the
a
amendment. So we need a
motion first
motion
on the
and a
amended.
second on the amendment, right? And then we'll vote on the
And then
amendment
we'll
first.
vote on the amended, as amended. So do we have
Second.
So we have a motion and a second.
Do a voice.
Sorry, who were the motion and the second? I apologize.
And if Bob moved.
I made the motion.
You did a move, Fran second. And then we can do a voice vote on the amendment.
This is just on the amendment not to exceed. A voice vote. So all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so the amendment to the resolution has been adopted. Now,
We need to vote as
we
amended.
need to vote on the resolution as adopted, right? Or as amended, I'm sorry.
Read it again.
Any further
Yeah,
discussion?
you want
Uh,
to.
Yes, I move to authorize for periodic transfer of funds from the equipment replacement fund to the PRMS operations fund for payment of the previously approved Delta Works LLC contract to coincide with the completion of the project phases as outlined in table 1, professional services of the contract, not to exceed $192,269.36.
Now we can do a vote.
All right, now we need a vote.
Berlin,
Aye.
Yolowski, Blumenthal,
Aye.
Graham,
Yes.
Gutman,
Yes.
Martinovich,
Aye.
Pearson,
Aye.
Moore, Ritz,
Aye.
Valera,
Aye.
Walter,
Aye.
Zerwin.
Aye.
Good. Resolution's adopted. Yes.
I'll move it just so we
Just no, all right. Any old business? In terms of new business, Chief Strokas from the Oak Brook Police on August 5th sent a letter to Director Zerwin, notice of their termination of the IGA dated August 8th, 2017, between the village and the county of DuPage. Simply, it's a notice of termination, but it doesn't have an exact date. But it is received prior to November 1st, this year, 2024. So that means that it would be effective April 2025.
Sure. So if I'm clear, Linda, you can help me with this, but they have to resubmit that letter? Or is it official?
I don't know, that's the question.
Are you talking about because of the
Is it
dates?
directed to Linda and
It's
not to the oversight committee?
It should be,
Yeah, it should be to the oversight committee, so, but it's copied to State's Attorney Berlin, so the question is, do we accept it or not, but.
Yeah, we could make them send another letter. I don't see the point. I mean, it is, I was CC'd on it. Chief Shar was.
I'm on the board, here, so, or on the
Yeah,
committee,
so I, you know, I don't think there's a need to make them resend it.
I think it's a little odd that it's the police chief sending it too, but such as like.
Yeah, I agree.
But it, you know, again, it's, it has been our position, that anyone leaving the IGA is still subject to contract restatement, which goes through 2027.
And I think we need, I don't know what more protocols are, but I think making sure they realize that it's going to take them a long time to work with IT to get their data anyway, and what those steps are not really clearly defined in the IGA, but, like we did with Addison, we got a track record now how we did. And I think there'll be some others following this too.
So I kind of recall that when Addison left, it was a lot of work for IT to do this.
Yep.
So I'm concerned that if we keep getting more of these, that the onus is on county IT.
It's not.
Okay.
Yeah, so we learned a lot, number one, from that exit and that process. We are gonna take those lessons learned and apply them to the new exit agreement.
Okay.
So those things will be addressed directly in the exit agreement, to the point that Chair Berlin just made, that they are still responsible for the contract through June 2027. They have access to the data. So we, you know, they're gonna pay for the data till June of 2027. And then they'll have full access until June 2027.
What happens
So-
after 2027?
The new contract. So that June 2027 is when the Hexagon contract ends.
So the onus is on them to extract that and come up with their own plan.
Yeah, we're gonna extract it. We're gonna provide them with a copy of their data, but we
Okay.
won't have the same issues
Okay.
because they have time, right, to
Right.
transition over. We had a limited amount of time. It was kind of a rush thing with Addison, and that created the problem.
Right.
If we had a year or more, it would have been a lot smoother, right, to just for the data conversion part of it, or migration part of it. So in this particular case, they have until June 2027 technically. We'll give them the data prior to that. They'll still have access to the system until the end of this contract. So that shouldn't be as much of a challenge as before. If they would like the data prior to, we're requesting that they pay for data migration services. The IT department can't do it. It's too taxing, takes away from the PRMS team's ability to support the folks that are still part of the consortium. But the terms of the exit agreement, we will share with the committee. They're going to change, right? I think a chunk of it will be the same, but there will be other things that are updated and more specific than it was with the Addison agreement.
just to chime in to add, and the reason why that is because Addison, when they gave notice, that was prior to the contract.
Restatement.
So they were in a separate category than anybody else leaving now.
Yes.
I think that's important for us all to say. We have questions on this for sure. And the other thing I think, and Anthony, forgive me, I'm sure you're gonna go down this exact path, but I think we don't necessarily want to say, hey, you're gonna be in here for 2.5 years. What we're gonna say is explain that the transition from one RMS to the next takes 2 years. We learned that from Addison. and that it requires an exit agreement, and we'll be happy to start working on that, negotiation, immediately.
That's about exactly the conversation we'll have. And technically Addison was 3 years.
Yeah, really, and they're still working on
They're
this,
still working.
I understand, so.
Any other new business?
I guess I'll bring up one other item, just because I was, became aware that, Downers Grove signed a contract with Exion for 10 years, so their letter is gonna be forthcoming, sure. That was at a public meeting, I'm not speaking out of turn, I don't believe.
10-year deal,
Everything.
long contract.
It was a bundled contract.
Huge.
It might make sense for you guys in your spare time to kind of try to evaluate it, because we'll get questions on that. It might help in negotiations of our new contract with whoever we're gonna go with, so,
Yeah,
it might make sense to pay attention to those details.
I'm not sure, if part of that is leaving the IGA though.
Say again, Chair?
Not sure if they're gonna leave the IGA.
Right, they haven't sent me a letter, that's true, so maybe they're still kind of evaluating in real time.
yeah. And remember, friends, we are aware of that. We are calculating that their departure to our numbers.
Not sure where Glendale Heights is either.
I don't know.
It's the other one that I heard.
Interested that the Downers contract was $4.1 million for all bundled services. Cameras, tasers.
Okay, never mind, I lost that. Okay, well, okay.
It's every product imaginable.
Well, Exxon has a hold on everything, so,
And if
Evidence.com.
to that, and it's obviously their decision, but,
and with evidence.com, once you have it, you're gonna have it.
but
Okay. Any other new business? All right. Motion and second to
So
adjourn.
moved.
second.
Good. We're adjourned, until December.
Happy holidays.
Second Wednesday in December. Okay, fair enough.